Napa Valley, California, June 2033. The late afternoon sun poured gold across the vineyard rows, the young clusters just starting to take shape. I was in my small office by the vines, jotting down irrigation notes in the same leather notebook my father once used when the phone rang. The caller ID, Mom. I answered, expecting a reminder about her doctor's appointment or maybe small talk about the weather. But her voice was lighter than usual, almost triumphant, like she had been rehearsing this moment. Amelia, she said, your brother is getting married. The wedding will be held at the vineyard. You don't need to come. Just make sure Ethan and Sophia can use the grounds. It'll make the family image look perfect. The pen froze in my hand. My chest tightened, but my face didn't move. The vineyard, my vineyard, wasn't just dirt and vines. It was the land my father left to me in his will, the land I had cared for with my own hands since childhood. Yet in my mother's eyes, I wasn't part of the picture worth presenting. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even let my voice shake. Instead, I looked out the window at the endless green rows, steady and unbending. My father's words echoed in my mind. The vines don't lie, Amelia. They'll only thrive for the one who truly listens. So I swallowed the ache and said simply, I understand. She exhaled like that was the answer she wanted, then continued with details. Lights for the oak terrace, the barrels moved out of the way, the east lawn cleared. All for a celebration I wasn't welcome to attend. When the call ended, silence settled over the room. I set the phone down and slid my hand over a small wooden box on the desk, the one my father gave me during his last harvest. I didn't open it. I just let my palm rest there, steady, like a vow. In that moment, I knew I didn't need to shout to be heard. The truth would speak for me. When I was 12, I thought summer smelled like soil and grapes. While other kids spent their weekends at the lake, I was out in the vineyard beside my father, hands sticky from pruning, knees stained with dust. He never treated me like just a daughter. He treated me like an heir to something alive. Listen, Amelia, he'd say, crouching down to show me the tendrils curling around the wire. The vines don't care about money or status. They respond to patience. They respond to heart. I believed him because I saw it, how the vines seemed to lean toward his hands, how the fruit grew sweeter under his care. And over time, they did the same for me. Back then, Ethan was different. He hated the work. He'd kick the dirt with his sneakers and whine about the heat. My mother would rush out with lemonade, fussing over him, telling my father not to push him so hard. He's meant for bigger things, she used to say, but my father never looked disappointed in Ethan. He just turned back to me, pressed a pair of pruning shears into my hands, and whispered, You're the one who understands this place, Amelia. Not because you have to, because you want to. Years later, when he passed, those words became more than memory. They became law. The will was clear, notarized, stamped with the estate seal. Hayes Vineyard, Parcel A, ownership to Amelia Hayes. He gave Ethan money from other holdings, liquid assets he could invest or squander as he pleased. But the vineyard came to me, not out of favoritism, out of trust. I remember holding that document for the first time. My hands trembled, not from greed, but from the weight of responsibility. The soil, the vines, the harvest, they weren't just mine. They were his legacy, living and breathing in every row. Yet even with legal ink on my side, I was never treated as the true heir. My mother kept Ethan on a pedestal, calling him the future of the family. And I was simply the caretaker, the shadow, the one expected to work but never to shine. Still, I didn't fight her. I didn't fight Ethan. I only did what my father had asked of me, to listen to the vines, because I knew one day they would speak louder than all of them. After the call ended, I went back to the vineyard, scissors in hand, pruning the clusters the way my father taught me, but my mind was miles away. I wasn't angry, not yet. Anger is noisy. I preferred silence. And in silence, I started looking. At night, when the vineyard slept, I opened my laptop. Public records, property filings, bank liens, things most people never bother to check, but I knew where to look. My father always said, "Truth isn't hidden, it's just buried under laziness." It didn't take long. Ethan's name kept popping up in financial dockets. Failed wine tech ventures, loans he couldn't repay, partnerships dissolved within months. He was drowning in debt, treading water with a smile pasted on his face. Then came Sophia, beautiful, polished, always speaking about her family's tradition. But tradition doesn't pay creditors. Her family's estate had gone under years ago, foreclosed, auctioned off in silence while they clung to appearances. On paper, they looked like a power couple. In reality, they were two hollow shells trying to prop each other up. The more I read, the calmer I became. I didn't need to expose them in the press. I didn't need to argue with my mother. The facts themselves were sharp enough to cut through any illusion. So I gathered it all. Copies of debt filings, foreclosure notices, lawsuits pending in court. I stacked them neatly like rows of vines. And when I closed the folder, I smiled for the first time in weeks, because I realized Ethan didn't want the vineyard for love or legacy. He wanted it for camouflage, to cover the rot behind a picture-perfect wedding. But camouflage only works until someone switches on the light, and I was ready to hold the switch. The week before the wedding, the vineyard was dressed like a bride itself. White tents rising on the east lawn, lanterns strung along the oak trees, a polished stage built over the soil I once knelt in as a child. Workers bustled, decorators fussed, and not one of them looked at me as if I belonged. Good. I didn't need to belong to their picture. I was painting my own. Inside my office, I cleared the desk and laid everything out. Foreclosure notices, bank liens, failed business filings, lawsuits waiting to explode. Every document bore Ethan's name, Sophia's family crest, or both. Each page was a nail in the coffin they had built with their own hands. I slipped them into a folder. No, not a folder. That felt too clinical, too small for the truth. Instead, I found a wooden box, the one my father had given me on my first harvest as manager. He'd carved our family crest into the lid, his initials still faintly etched in the corner. I polished it until the grain glowed. Then I lined it with velvet, the way one might line a jewelry case. On top of the papers, I placed a card, handwritten, steady ink strokes. To Ethan and Sophia, may your marriage begin with honesty. Consider this gift my contribution to your new life together. I tied the box with a crimson ribbon, the kind that catches the eye before anything else. It looked regal, celebratory, dangerous. When I set it on the desk, I didn't feel revenge. I felt balance, because I wasn't crashing a wedding. I wasn't ruining a day. I was simply holding up a mirror, and whether they could stand their reflection, that was never my responsibility. The wedding day arrived draped in perfection. White roses climbed the vineyard trellises, chandeliers dangled from the oak branches, and waiters in crisp black uniforms carried glasses of sparkling wine. The guests whispered in admiration. The Hayes family knows how to put on a show. I stood at the edge of the crowd, half in shadow, half in sunlight, not invited, not welcomed, but present all the same. My vineyard didn't need an invitation. When the vows ended and the applause rang out, a hush of anticipation swept through the terrace. It was time for the gifts. Silver boxes, crystal bags, envelopes thick with checks, all laid at the couple's feet like offerings to royalty. And then came mine. The wooden box gleamed under the fairy lights, ribbon catching the glow. The guests leaned closer. "Exquisite," one whispered. "Looks like a family heirloom," another said. Ethan's smile faltered the moment he saw my handwriting on the card. His fingers twitched, but Sophia urged him on, eager for the display. He tugged the ribbon free. The lid opened. At first, silence. Then the rustle of paper. His eyes darted left, then right, scanning the documents too quickly, too desperately. His face flushed crimson. Sophia plucked one sheet from his hand. Her eyes widened. Bankruptcy notices, lawsuits, debt filings. She read line after line until the truth weighed too heavy to deny. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few guests whispered, others stared openly. Sophia's hand shook as she shoved the paper back into his chest. Her voice cracked, carrying farther than she realized. "You lied to me, you lied about everything." Ethan snapped, his composure gone. He turned on me, rage spilling over. "You think this makes you better, Amelia? You've always been jealous, always the bitter shadow in this family." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I simply stepped forward, meeting his fury with calm. "I didn't write a single word in those documents. They belong to you. I only tied the ribbon." Gasps again, murmurs, phones quietly lifted, recording. The picture-perfect illusion was shattering, frame by frame. From behind the crowd, my mother's voice cut sharp. "Amelia, how dare you humiliate your brother on his wedding day?" I turned, eyes steady on hers. "I didn't humiliate him, Mother. I gave him a mirror. He did the rest." The music stopped, the laughter faded, and in that silence the perfect wedding began to crumble. By nightfall, the vineyard wasn't a wedding anymore. It was a battlefield, only the weapons were truth and silence. Sophia tore off her veil, mascara streaking down her cheeks. The cameras captured everything, the way she hurled the papers back into Ethan's chest, the way she spat. "You married me for my family's name, and I married you for your vineyard." Turns out neither of us had what we pretended to. Then she was gone, heels sinking into the soft earth as she stormed past the oak trees, ripping diamond earrings from her ears, leaving gasps and silence in her wake. Ethan tried to chase her, but the guests pulled away as if he carried a plague. Phones buzzed with news alerts, whispers grew louder, and by morning every vineyard in Napa Valley knew the truth. Ethan Hayes, heir of nothing, drowning in debt. Sophia Lane, desperate bride of a fallen dynasty. The banks wasted no time. Liens locked tighter, creditors circled, lawyers delivered notices like vultures picking at a carcass. Ethan's so-called ventures folded in days. Suppliers cut ties. Even his friends, those who once laughed loudest at his parties, suddenly stopped returning calls. And my mother, Marion, who had always called me the shadow, she could barely leave the house. At the market, the whispers followed her. At church, eyes refused to meet hers. The perfect family she fought so hard to display had shattered under her very spotlight. One evening, I found her sitting alone on the porch of the big house, staring out at the vines. No words, no fight left, just silence, the kind that tastes like regret. As for me, I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I walked the vineyard rows at dawn, pruning shoots, testing soil, listening to the rustle of leaves in the morning wind. The land was still alive, still mine, still my father's legacy, and for the first time in years it was quiet enough for me to hear only what mattered. Harvest season came early that year. The grapes hung heavy and dark, the air thick with sweetness. I walked the rows at sunrise, shears in hand, the same way my father once did, listening to the quiet hum of the land. The wedding lights had long been taken down. The laughter, the whispers, the shame, they all faded. What remained was the vineyard, steady as ever, roots deep in soil that did not bend to appearances. For weeks, neighbors stopped by. Some offered sympathy. Others offered praise. I didn't need either. Respect is not handed out in pity or applause, it's earned in silence, in constancy, in truth. I thought of Ethan. His debts consumed him faster than the vines could grow. The last I heard, he'd sold off the luxury cars, the empty ventures, even his condo in the city. All he had left was bitterness. I thought of Sophia. She disappeared into the Bay Area, her engagement ring pawned, her family name no longer currency. And I thought of my mother. Marion no longer called me jealous or bitter. She didn't call me anything at all, and maybe that was its own kind of justice. I paused at the edge of the vineyard, the hills glowing gold under the morning sun. For the first time, I didn't crave her approval. I didn't crave anyone's. My father had given me more than land. He had given me truth and a place to root myself when the world tried to erase me. I placed my hand on one of the vines, rough bark against my skin, and whispered the words he once told me. The vines don't lie, Amelia. They'll only thrive for the one who truly listens. And I listened, because in the end, blood makes us relatives. But respect, that's what makes us family.